Hey folks, my name is Brian Schuster. I'm a founder, software developer, and career mentor. I like building stuff and I like working with people who are ambitious and want to build great abundance in their life through building better systems and better ideas. And today I wanted to jump on a quick video here and share a story that I just had with a family member that taught me something very important. It reminded me about something very important when dealing with ambitious people inside of organizations or being an ambitious person inside of an organization. So this morning I had a call with a family member. They just started a new job. They're now working in a new industry, one that they're quite good at. And this family member is very, very ambitious. They were very good. They've sold a ton of business in the past, and they've done great stuff. And of course, they wanted to take this into their next role. So as part of this new job, they have to go get a certification. And in order to sell, the new business they're in, they have to go and do 12 weeks of programming. And of course, this organization sells a 12-week program, that every new employee is a part of. Pretty simple. Well, my brother is pretty clever and he understands the space pretty well. So he did what anyone would do, who wanted to fast track into selling. Basically, found the course, figured out what he needed to learn, go and took it, and then got, the certification and thought it was great. So I thought, hey, fantastic. That was great. And as I was talking with him, he was kind of, ambivalent about this. And like, oh, this is great news. You can sell quicker, you can get out there faster. And it's like, well, I talked to my manager about it. And, and I was wondering what you do. It's like, oh, what did the manager say? And it's like, the manager was like, you know what, just go ahead and take the course and finish it up. And then after you're done with that, you can go off and sell. And I'm like, oh, that's a problem. And what you would do. So when you're an ambitious individual in companies, like I'm sure you are, and you want to go and create things and you want to do, people think that they have this tendency, especially early on in the career, that if I am ambitious and if I just work hard enough and I do enough, I'm going to win over the hearts and minds of people around me. I'm going to enact big change. I'm going to do this and I can just work through it. That my energy alone can go drive this. And the truth is, no, you're not going to do that. You are not going to be able to get through the machine and what they have here. And the machine, I mean, is that all the people around you and the summation of that energy. You cannot create that energy in a vacuum. You need other people to go ahead and do that. And if the people around you are at a different energy level, I'm not saying my relative's, manager is a bad person at all. They just have a different expectation. They're not as ambitious or don't know what to do with that type of ambition. But you can't create that energy in a vacuum. And so I said something, to my relative. I said this: ambition attracts ambition. Now, you might normally think that if you're inside of a big organization, let me stand over here, that if you're inside a big organization, that they're all going to be stodgy and they're all going to be old and they're all going to have these things. But that's not true. Companies don't get massive by not having innovative people. As a matter of fact, being able to scale innovation and have people who know how to sell and know how to create great things is how big organizations reinvigorate. Unless it's a dying company, which most, at least most shouldn't be. You should have that. So even if you're inside a big company, you should have people who are ambitious. You should have people who recognize that ambition. And most importantly, you need to make sure you are working with those individuals. So if you are an ambitious person and you show ambition, you do good work, you pound the table, you make things happen, and no one is recognizing it, they're not ambitious people. They're not the type of people you should be around. And that is going to kill you. That is absolutely going to kill you. And so my relative's in a tough place. They're in a place, and their manager, which is one of the most important people to get you behind this, to get you to understand your ambition, to understand your motivation, and to be able to understand here's what you're really looking for. Now let me give you the challenge to go for. Whether or not you're in software, give you the next big software challenge. In sales, give you the next big sales challenge. In operations, come up with a way to reorganize this entire group so that it is working 20% faster. If somebody's not pulling you forward, you're going to die. And it is going to be an ugly death. It will be an ugly death. So if you find yourself in that position, here's what you need to do. First and foremost, either do great work or have great passion. Let me go ahead and use this wonderful blackboard behind me. Do great work or Sometimes you're just young, right? Sometimes you don't have great work. Sometimes all you have is your ambition, which means have great passion. Where you're showing, and which basically shows if you have great passion, you're willing to show if you don't have great work, you have hard work, and people need that too. So do great work and go have great passion and be able to show that. That's the prerequisite to show your ambition, you're the type of person. And not necessarily that you're willing to work hard, you know, because everyone says they're willing to work hard, but you have a passion for something, you want to learn something, you want to kick ass, take names, and maybe doing that. That's a prerequisite. But if you have great work, if you're older in your career, you need to do, first off, go great work. Second thing you need to do is you need to learn how to show that work. You need to know how to show that. So you need to show your work, or you need to demonstrate it. All right, and actually that's probably a better term here, so I'm going to write that here, demonstrate. Demonstrate your work. So, you know, my relative was able to demonstrate their work by saying, this should take 12 weeks, it took 2 weeks. And that shows that I am willing to go through the effort of actually going and selling, doing these extra things, doing whatever. That's one way to demonstrate work. Another way to demonstrate great work is to be a software engineer who has a great idea, and during their own time, either their nights and weekends, or maybe they caught some company time that usually everyone's screwing around, so they worked and said, here is some great piece of software that automates this problem, or automates away this thing, or here is a larger plan I have to reorganize this thing, or here's a refactor I'm doing. You're doing something to showcase it, and you're thinking about how I'm going to sell it to the next person. You're thinking through, how am I going to take this piece of work I have and get it to scale to, you know, some larger thing, you know? And what I mean by scale is just, can I make it so that it's easy to read, right? So that they can see the work. Or is this a big enough accomplishment that it shows that I've done something, right? Maybe it's a certification that you send and says, I went to get a cloud certification, let me go get this. Or I went to do this sales training because I'm ready to do. Or I learned public speaking or whatever. You want to do that, and then you need to be able to show your work to other people or get into a showable format. And then what you want to do is you want to make sure that you find the ambition. And if it's not directly in your management line, and again, some companies are big enough that you have that. I know I worked at IBM. IBM was freaking huge. And so what you want to do is you want to find the ambition inside of these organizations, right? You want to find people that are posting online about these things or posting inside your company Slack. You want to see people who are hosting meetups. You're saying internal meetups and saying, I have this great, I have an idea or something else, like somebody who's doing stuff, and you want to go and find that individual and pitch it. Even if they're not your manager, even your manager is not excited, you can go and find those individuals. You want to find people who are running programs internally that, you're not sure what their job is, but they're doing great work. And you go and say, hey, you're a software guy. Let me show you this piece of software. Here's your sales guy. Let me show you the sales thing to do and what you do. And you want to start to show that you do that. Basically, ambition attracts ambition. So you want to go find the ambitious people and get them to find you, right? And usually you might show this to a peer, right? Whatever, finding a good peer is there, but you want to find something who gets that. The reason why you want to find ambitious people, the reason why that's important, because ambitious people know what to do with ambitious people. They know how to put them to work. They see someone and says, wow, I have an ambition, I have a goal, and I need people to be able to do that. You're ambitious too. Let me sell you on this idea. Let me give you this work. Let me connect you with someone who can go do something about this, make this happen. And that leads to our final bit of advice here, which is find a way to work together. And again, this is not going to work with every single contact you have. This is not going to be every single individual you meet. But you want to make sure that as you go and find the ambitious people, as you go and show them what you want to do, and they say, wow, I love what you do. They say, here's a project that I have. Here's some nights and weekends work. Here's some details I'm working on to try to find a way to be able to go and work together to make it happen. Even if it's not your direct manager, which sometimes might mean you have to work nights and weekends. You have to work a little bit extra. You may have to ask for part-time work to be able to go and do something. You may have to go and ask something. What you want to do is you want to go and make sure that you are with those ambitious people who are doing something, and that you can stoke that energy, because they're going to know what to do with you, and you're going to know what to give that individual. And so if you stay where you are, if you're not with ambitious people, it's going to slowly kill that energy, and one of two things is going to happen. Either you're going to be forced out of the organization, or you're going to become one of the zombies. Don't become one of the zombies. So couple stories to help demonstrate this. So when I went into IBM originally, I just decided I didn't want to be like an operations person anymore. I didn't want to be in business. I just said, you know what, I'm going to be a DevOps engineer. I'm going to put my head forward. I'm going to do this. But of course, like I can't run away from my background. I'm always talking business. I'm always talking operations. Even when I'm unconsciously thinking about it, I'm always, even when I'm thinking I'm talking technology, I'm also talking structures of teams and how to make it better, whatever. I had a manager, James Skeen, who was there, and I started talking about my DevOps stuff, and he liked my DevOps stuff, right? Whatever. I was a decent engineer, but then I started talking a little bit about the business, and I kept shying away from it. And I remember on the interview, he said to me, don't shy away from that, because you actually have something here that very few engineers have, and this is actually quite valuable. He saw something in me. He saw something that I was going, showing, and my manager was a very ambitious individual, and he saw that sort of, that energy in me. Well, when I joined the team, I started solving, within 6 months, I started solving operational problems. I solved a support team problem where we had all of our support tickets for our DevOps team went to one individual, and that was like the most valuable individual. So I created a support process to spread it across multiple people, chunk the work up so that was easier to do, and it was able to get that individual working better, and the big projects. And because of that, they were able to go after like some of the biggest transitions, the biggest, infrastructure projects we had in our organization, all because we had that support process in place. I did that. I did some agile transformation. Within a year, my boss saw what I was doing and was like, you got to be our ops excellence lead. Here we do. And my job literally became 25% ops excellence, 75% DevOps. And then eventually it transitioned over to where I was literally doing almost like 75% ops excellence. And then once my manager left and then his subsequent manager left, I became, the manager. He saw something in me. He saw that ambition. He gave me the work to do that. And it kept pulling me forward. And that eventually got me to a place where I was quite happy. So that happened to me because I was working with somebody who was my direct manager. But what if you're working with someone who isn't your direct manager? Or what if you don't have someone who, really gets what you're doing? How do you work that? Well, there's ways you can make that work as well. So I had a friend of mine I met through like the IBM grapevine. And again, IBM's a huge organization. So I happened to met this individual who was on the sales side of the organization. Christian was his name. And he was working on a product he wasn't super jazzed about. And he was doing his manager work, but again, he had something he wanted to do. And he had actually a crazy idea. He thought that gaming was going to become this huge technologically important division for the world. That the number of gaming companies was increasing, the number of esports, organizations was increasing, the number of opportunities to do streaming and things like that was going up. And it was like, why isn't IBM in this division? Why isn't IBM doing this sort of thing? And this is a young guy, he's, I think he was either 23 or 24. I might be wrong there. Maybe been a little bit older, but younger guy. And he decided, I want to start something. So he started coming up with this idea of IBM gaming, and he decided he wanted to do the work, that he wanted to make this happen. He was at a meeting and he had a chance. He saw the vice president of this division, some big wig inside the organization. He found the guy and says, hey, can I see you for a few minutes? And he was like, yeah, sure, whatever. And he was talking to some lowly guy. He pitched them on the idea of IBM gaming, that he had this idea, he had this vision for what he wanted to do. He said he needed to go companies. He felt he could go sell companies on this. And the guy went, I love what you're doing. Start it, right? I'm going to give you some of the resources to make this happen. Create a council to basically go after this, and let's go build this. And over the course of the next few months, he went and found different people inside of IBM who had that same vision that gaming could be great, and actually built together. They built an internal esports team inside of IBM actually that actually competed on some games. He actually started posting online, and actually I didn't find him through IBM. I found him through LinkedIn, where he was posting on gaming, and that was something he was interested in. And it all started because he had an idea. He pitched it to the right person, and that other ambitious individual saw him and said, we're going to have to pull you forward. And what you do. So what did we learn here? Or what's the important takeaway? First off, if you're ambitious, you need to have that reciprocated inside the organization. If you do not have it reciprocated, if you do not have somebody else who's finding you and doing that or telling you, getting your butts right, if it doesn't speak to your heart, right, it's going to kill you. And boy, like you can leave, which sucks, but it's better than the alternative, or you become a zombie, where somebody just die. Men leave lives of quiet desperation. This is the main way to do that, right? So it kills the ambition. So first off, you need to find people to reciprocate that. The best person to have this happen to you is, of course, somebody in your direct management line, somebody you work for, somebody you do, because they're going to have the most interaction. So optimizing for finding a manager who's given that to you is a really big piece of the puzzle when you go into a job. But if you do not have that, you can still work to be able to do good work and do it for others inside of your organization. It can be peers of your manager. It can be people outside your organization. It can be many, many skip levels inside of an organization. It doesn't matter. As long as you find somebody who likes the work, understands what you do, and can pull you forward, or at least at the very least network you, get you connected to the right people, you can all of a sudden start finding those new opportunities so you can find a way to work together and eventually maybe even change jobs entirely. I've seen that happen dozens of times where somebody found another individual or a management change happen and you're like, hey, I want to go work someplace else in the organization, and they already had it lined up because they were spending time doing this. So thank you very much for following this. If you're on LinkedIn, please give me a follow and a like here and a comment whether or not this was useful. If you're on YouTube, same thing, like, subscribe, comment. I'm going to be doing more content like this, and we'll see where it goes. So thank you all so much for spending some time with me today.